Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to everyone. Welcome and greetings from Business Innovation and Technology Commercialization Center, Bitkom UiTM Malaysia. My name is Alia Nur Yasmin binti Muhammad Shahar and I'll be for hosting for this webinar sharing session. On behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to extend our warm welcome to all. And I'm honored to welcome the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Innovation University Tun Hussein on Malaysia, Yang Berbahagia Prof. Dr. Muhammad Shahir Shamsi bin Omar, who will be sharing on the topic from lab to market researcher tips for marketing commercialization. The agenda for today starts off with welcoming remarks by Director of Business Innovation and Technology Commercialization Center, Bitkom, Prof. Madya IR, TS Said Shatir Asghar, Said Hassan. Please welcome Dr. Said.
Okay, thank you, Alia. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Thank you to our moderator, Cik Alia. And very good morning to our honorable guest, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Innovation, University Tun Hussein On Malaysia, Yang Berbahagia Prof. Dr. Muhammad Shahir Shamsir bin Omar. Faculty members, researchers, and all the participants. Alhamdulillah, I am grateful that we are again given the opportunity to hold this prestigious event, sharing session, Bitkom entitled From Lab to Market, Researcher Tips for Market Commercialization. For everyone's information, Bitkom is the technology transfer office of the UiTM, and we are responsible to help researchers to translate all research discoveries into business opportunities that will benefit the university, the nation, and as well as global community. First of all, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to UTHM as well as Business Innovation and Technology Commercialization Center, Bitkom, especially the Communication and Media Unit of Bitkom, for creating this platform for researchers to discuss, create, and participate in research and commercialization. It gives me contentment for today's event and my warmest welcome to all participants. We as UiTM Bitkom honored for this kind of event. After quite some time, we held several of events since MCO. And Alhamdulillah, it is still possible with today's technology for us to collaborate in such event that benefits all researchers, academicians, and all participants. Based on our sharing session today, I hope that we can find ways to commercialize our products, and then to frame our research and pivot to the industry, and then to strategize innovation and commercialization as well as the technology transfer. And I hope that we can also strategize the research market commercialization for the upcoming year. And through today's webinar sharing session, we hope the knowledge that we obtain from Yang Berbahagia Prof can be contributed to our nation, economy, and the society. With that, I thank you very much. I pass back to you, Alia.
Thank you, Dr. Said. For everyone's information, this session will start off with a sharing session by Yang Berbahagia, Professor Dr. Muhammad Shahir Shamsi bin Omar, followed by Q&A questions. So do drop your questions in the Google Meet and YouTube comment below. Before we start off, I would like to introduce to our speaker of the day, Deputy Vice Chancellor of Research and Innovation University Tun Hussein On Malaysia, Yang Berbahagia Prof. Dr. Muhammad Shahir Shamsir bin Omar, receiving award Malaysian Technology Exhibition entitled HPC on the Go, Creating Instant Computing Cluster for Bioinformatics and Molecular Dynamics, BDDB, Brain Disease Database, CFMD, Cysteine Flanking Motif Database. This goes to the excellent topic that will be shared today entitled From Lab to Market, Researcher Tips for Market Commercializations. Now, without further ado, the moment that we all have been waiting for, we will turn the time over to Yang Berbahagia, Prof. Dr. Muhammad Shahir Shamsir bin Omar. Please welcome Yang Berbahagia, Professor Dr. Muhammad Shahir Shamsir bin Omar.
Okay. Thank you to UiTM. Thank you to the director, Bitco. First time kita jumpa online. I think so.
Yeah, first time, Prof.
Yeah, all right. So thank you, Alia, for the great introduction. So we have about 2 hours, betul? So I do agree with the moderator tadi. We're gonna have like half an hour, I would say brief, and then we'll spend the rest of the time to do macam Q&A lah, to exchange ideas maybe, because to me session like this is also a learning process for me as well. You know, I'm learning what's happening at ATM. I'm learning of probably new problems that I need to adapt, and sharing session macam ni is good. It also help myself, for example, as the DVCRI, to stay connected to the grassroots lah, to badak akar umbi. So UiTM with me is not something that is asing lah. It's not strange for me. I've been going to UiTM for I think several times, even multiple times a year, due to my role as a MIRA task force and auditor. So and actually kita punya I think your previous boss Dato' Azra'i, Professor Azra'i was my former boss dekat ETM. So now I'm on loan to ETHM lah for 3 years, but I remember working with Professor Azra'i. So I hope he has done well for UiTM, and I believe he did. I think looking forward, I'm happy pagi ni to be able to contribute and share my perspective and knowledge regarding the title given to me. So I let the moderator pancarkan the slide, please. Okay, dah keluar ke?
Kejap ya.
Tak apa, it's okay. So what I'm going to share is actually some principle and rules while we're waiting for the slide to come up. So some principle, some things that I learned while doing this in terms of the conversation, but for myself and as well as guiding others. So everything is not set in stone. It's not set in stone. To be honest, kita kena ada caveat kat sini. Okay, kita ada kena caveat whereby the only plan that works is the plan that works, because you may have a model for UiTM, you may have a model for UTHM, you may have a model for UM. So how do you know the plan works? Only if the plan works. Now, sometimes you can have the most beautiful plan coming from RUs, conversation. You have strategy taken from Stanford, etc. Okay, so dah keluar dah tu. Okay, right. You can do the top left to ada view full screen. I think presentation view. The top left maybe, so that they take the full screen. Full screen mode I think. Control L pun boleh. Ada full screen mode.
Alia pergi ke atas tu, Alia ada file edit view tu.
Ya, betul.
Okay. Boleh kejap
Okay, so there's a caveat here while kita tunggu Alia betulkan screen. Okay, everybody has to remember there are different model for different universities. There are different model to get your product to the market according to different product. Different product has different route, different paths. The way you do an app tak sama dengan the way you do with the cosmetics. The way you do for what we call tangible product is different from, for example, knowledge-based product. Okay. Okay, tak apa. I mean, it's okay kalau tak boleh keluar the full screen mode. We just stick to ni. Can you go to the title? Start from the title, please. Okay, so we're gonna have an introduction kat situ, some preamble and summary content. Okay, next. We'll explain the why, we'll explain the Malaysia scenario, the how, and address some myths in terms of commercialization, because we need to put that to sleep. We cannot leave it be, because, for example, there are things that we're going to discuss. Actually, it's not relevant anymore today. And then we're going to have the Q&A session. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, the next slide, slide number 4. You can see that why. You have to remember, as an institution, we are supposed to create value. Creating value comes from the first, which is the teaching and learning. Teaching and learning, this is the conventional method that every institution of higher learning, anything that you go through, I would say teaching institution. Teaching institution, first and foremost, that is the first mission. So if you boil it down to the principle of teaching, you can go to like Sekolah Memandu and driving school. The driving school is supposed to teach you something in lieu of you paying the fee to get the car license, motorcycle license, 600, 700 ringgit, 1,000 ringgit. I don't know what's the current rate right now. But in lieu of the payment, you'll get a certification saying that, okay, we trust you to be on the road. Okay, the JPJ trusts you, the insurance can now give you insurance. You are allowed to drive a car because you are being trained. So the knowledge and the training, okay, teaching and learning, you learn, they teach. That is the first mission. Second mission is the R&D, the process of creating innovation within the campus walls, and then doing that and taking that to improve your stakeholders, your actors, whether it's industry, whether it's community, etc. And then the third mission, okay, for university is the entrepreneurial active engine and that create value. So we're looking at the act of creating value beyond the borders, beyond the boundary, beyond the gates of your campus. Okay, so be it for social, economic, cultural. So this is a radical departure from the traditional ivory tower, Menara Gading. People think about Menara Gading ni, people think about, people come to the Menara, I'll teach you, you'll become clever. You say clever, pandai, but you can knowledgeable, and then you are now qualified to work. Company will trust you. You bring your cert, you show it to them. I graduated in Bachelor of A, Bachelor of B, Bachelor of C. So I can be trusted to be employed by you. So basically, it's an extension of tadi lah, Sekolah Memandu tu. Cuma it's a bit more complex. It requires a lot more training. It requires the build-up of trust, of quality from the institution itself, so that the employer can then trust your cert, saying that yes, this person has been well trained and it can create value for me lah. So what happens now when you do the third mission, the creation of the value is beyond the gates, is in the form of whether you are product, whether you are services, whether you are training. So it's not within the certification process. Okay, it's beyond that. The certification degree is the first. Okay, next. Okay, so when you have the institutional intention, intent, aim, the mission, you have the individual as well. You have, when you do this, when you bring a product out from the campus, you're going to have the 3R. Okay, it is for support, for revenue. People commercialize product because of revenue. Okay, that is the bottom line. It's always about when somebody comes to you and say, I have an altruistic motive of trying to make the world a better place. Okay, we talk about Elon Musk, we talk about those doing EV, we talk about Jeff Bezos, etc. Yes, they do bring positive changes to the global world, to the player, but at the end of the day, is revenue. It's revenue driven. Okay, but in terms of institution higher learning, the revenue can be then channeled to support your ROs, RAs, can use to sponsor your B40 undergraduate, to provide financial security, so that you are not dependent on certain teams of research. For example, if you are dependent on FRGS, the RGS, RIGS, you are dependent on the team of the current government. Okay, for the RMK, for the team, for example, they want to focus on water, so you have to submit proposal related to the water team, air pollution. So having your revenue from your product, from your services, allows you to be independent. So it is also a reward. It's normal, and also recognition. As you progress through career, you're gonna have a recognition system. You become subject matter expert. You have the product. The product represent you. The product represent you. The service represent you. So it is a natural progression. So if you do this, don't worry. It's natural. It's not something to be frowned upon. Okay, next. So we'll talk about briefly about the Malaysian scenario. Can we as academician monetize? And before even we talk about product, we talk about services, we talk about anything else, we talk about the scenario of can we do it? Okay, next. Okay, so it's already stated in the Malaysian Education Blueprint 2015-2025. Next. So if you go into the purple playbook under the title Income Generation, Endowment and Wakaf, you have the next slide, please. You have the part where it will highlight the research and commercialization ideas, the research funding. Okay, you go to the industry research, company spin-off, licensing, royalties, consulting, and other services. So if you look at it, everything is together. Whether it's product, whether it's consulting, whether it's services, whether it's training, whether it's spin-off companies, startup companies, everything is together under one team. All right, next. Under the orange playbook, the career pathway and leadership development. Okay, you go next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, under the experienced practitioner, you can see that it is explicitly stated saying that the universities are or should be able to produce a practitioner that is able to become a subject matter expert, being consultancy through providing services to the external users. So you have the researcher, you have the inspiring educator, you have the institutional leaders, the VCs, the DVCs, but also you have this particular part of the orange book. So it is not about not doing it. It's about some of us doing it. It's not everybody. It's not for everybody. Taking product services to the market and making it commercial is not for everyone. Okay. All right. Next. So when you look at the MIRA criteria as well, you can see that it has been stated in the glossary as well, and also in the key indicator where you have to calculate and submit data in terms of endowment, fees, licensing, spin-off companies, commercialization. So this is not something that is foreign in MIRA. Okay, next. Okay, so you're gonna have like 3 examples here. Okay, this is you can Google this up. This is a website similar to Airbnb, but it is focusing on connecting between tourists and tour guides, services, guides. So this is a website, okay, that provides a service that connects industries in the tourism player to the potential client. Okay, next. So this is a product base, okay, Cochlear implement this ear, I would say it's a cochlear implant. So this is a product base, okay, commercialized in the market as well. You can Google this up. Okay, next. You can see this is Coursera. I think everybody is familiar with this Coursera. You can see the advertisement everywhere and YouTube. Okay. So Coursera is a platform where you provide service that connects trainers to learners. Okay, all right. Okay, let's go slightly deeper. Next. Okay, you can see that talk about one of the big institution when you talk about market commercialization, product and services. You can see example given here is MIT. MIT is a genesis of more than 25,000 companies. Okay, its annual turnover, the genesis of these companies, about 2 trillion. And you can see just now the Get Your Guide website, the first website, is actually a website by ETH Zurich. Okay, it's now based in Berlin. Used to be based in Zurich. So this is one of the 30 spin-off companies by ETH Zurich. Get Your Guide. It is valued at 1 billion. So it is a unicorn. So a unicorn from ETH Zurich. So Coursera is actually University of Stanford. Okay, also a 1 billion evaluation. But I think when they offered the IPO, I think they got about 240, 250, I think, $million for the first IPO. And then you have the University of Melbourne, cochlear implant. You can see that the revenue is already 1 billion. So these are three different commercialization. One is a platform, two is a platform, you can say, but the Stanford is more of a training. Melbourne is a product. So when you talk about taking your ideas, taking your product lah, I can't find a better word, product to market. It is not always physical product. It could be a service, it could be training, it could be a platform. Okay, most in Malaysia they think about product, they think about tangible product. So it's a bit of a misnomer lah. You don't want to limit yourself to that kind of terminology. Okay, all right, next. So next is a slide. This is Stanford. Okay, Stanford, as opposed to MIT just now, both of them has a laissez-faire kind of innovation management. So for example, here David Sheraton is the most the wealthiest academic. To my knowledge, he still drives his Honda. I think he sold his Honda, but he is valued at $6.9 billion dollars. So he's from Stanford. So Stanford become a billionaire factory because it creates the ecosystem that allows student, allows lecturer to fully flourish, I would say. All right, next. So you can see next is two product. Okay, this is not this is not cochlear implant. This is not ear implant. This is books. Okay, books as a product. For example, Prof. Kim and Prof. Marbone, if I pronounce correctly, they were the authors of the Blue Ocean. Remember, half a decade ago, the whole of Malaysia, we have the National Blue Ocean Strategy, the Blue Ocean, the Red Ocean. So the idea came from the books themselves. So they promote the books. They are professors, lecturers in France. So this is their product. This is commercializing their ideas, their books, their product. So you can see here Michelle as well, Dr. Michelle from Lesley University in the US. So it is a children's book. Her bestseller is The Library Lion. Okay, it's just a children's book. So she has more than almost 50 books in the top bestseller, and all of them are children's books. So this is a product of a lecturer. I mean, if I haven't told you just now, you won't even know there's a university called Lesley University. But that's it. You have a lot of institutions around the world. For example, we talk about architecture, I can think about Bartlett. You could talk about all other, specialist institution. So each one of them has a particular niche. All right. In this case, for the Blue Ocean, they are from management school. All right. Next. Okay. Here's one example. Tim Springer. He has a product that allows you to tackle COVID. So he became a billionaire when COVID happened because the stock and the shares of his company rose. because of the product that he produces that become sought after during the COVID pandemic. Okay, next. So you have MIT, you have Stanford, you have Harvard. Okay, so how do you monetize your expertise? Okay, first of all, next, we need to tackle the myth first, the myth of meaning, because why? A lot of lecturers, they think when the product is a tangible product. Okay, we talk about from lab to market. They think that it's a physical thing. Yes, it's a physical thing, but it also includes services. Anything that people are willing to pay for is a product. It could be a module, it could be a children book, it could be a guidebook, it could be software, it could be cosmetic, it could be tools, it could be anything, it could be even a training, it could even be you as a person. So when you say lab, you have to take lab as a point of ideation, usually within the confines of the institution. So anything that is being sold, anything that is a demand, they produce at the cost and sold at the price, that is a product. Okay, even though it's intangible. All right. Okay, so we solve that one first. Next. So two other myths that we need to put to sleep. Okay, for example, there is no value of death. Okay, value of death exists when in the 1990s, 1980s, Silicon Valley, they wanted to take the product out, they want to take from the university. So you coin the term because there is a challenge for you to get the product out. But if you start your product, okay, from the customer side, from the need side, okay, you don't do research and then, okay, when can I commercialize this? No, because your research is purely theoretical. What you want to do your research is research solving industry's problem, then your solution is a product. So when you start at the other end of the valley, there is no value of death. Okay, value of death only applies to those who does research but is not framed against the future needs of the industry. Okay, so it is a nice coin, a term saying that, okay, we need to do funding. Yes, we do admit to take product to the market, we need pre-com, we need MOSTI, okay, we need to approve validation. Let's say, for example, you have a cosmetic, you have a cosmetic product, you want to get it certified, KKM, pharmacy. Yes, those require funding, but it's not value of death. If you already have the product that in line with the customer need, there's no value because you already know what is to be done. Okay, for example, we took a lot of Dato Vida, Alif Shukri, and they have commercial product. They don't have value of death. They just take the product out and sell it. Some people kata apa, timbang kati timbang kati. But then you have to remember, there's no death for them, value. There's no value of that. The value of death occurs for us lecturers who are not in tune with the market need. Okay, so usually when you commercialize something, it's not something totally 100% novel. Usually you innovate by creating value, adding improvement. So it's not 100% novel. Okay, then the last myth is the myth of man. Okay, people forget that the one that sells is the person. So you have to have the right people. You have to have the right people. Okay, when you have the academic must have industry insight. Okay, it is about the person, not the product. Okay, if the product may fail, but the person will prevail. Maksudnya dia akan berjaya. So that learning process allows him to build more and better product, or maybe even pivot, do a different product. So you have multiple iteration, you need training. So you need a person lah. So if you don't have an entrepreneurial person, there's no point of having funding, value of debt, etc. So the person must be entrepreneurial first. Okay, all right, next. Okay, so here's a diagram that explains the value creation of an institution of higher learning. So it's okay, don't worry. You'll get this PDF if you want, and they will share it with you later. Okay. So when you go up from the bottom, okay, the bottom is the lowest level. This is the first mission, undergraduate, postgraduate. You're gonna have what we call teaching and learning at the bottom. So you can see the arrow means that from the right hand side, commercial economy, people go into the campus, into the campus, going into the university, which is the blue, the knowledge economy. So one direction of people coming in seeking you. So they come, they do their UG, they do their PG, get fees. So the blue and the green line, green is exchange for income, exchange for revenue. They'll get something. They get expertise, they get cert, they get qualification, they get a service. Okay, so the red line is the bottom line lah. Everybody does this, from the biggest institution to the smallest institution. Sekolah memandu, sekolah memasak, KTM, institut latihan, they do these levels. But at a university, as you go up, okay, the complexity increases. Also your experience, your competency. So as you go up, you do training. Okay, dual arrows mean people coming out or you going out. So your product is a training. Your product is a person, I provide training. So my product is a training, a series of training. So here today, you're talking to me, my product is this. I'm giving you training. Okay. So you can have testing, for example, above product. So testing, why is it more complex? Testing require equipment, require modal, requires sometimes certification. So training, all the items and sample people giving testing, they go into the university. So in lieu of fees. Further go, you go up, you can have expert, you can have consultancy, you can have innovation, you can have adjunct, you can have spin-off companies. So as you go up, you begin to be outside. You begin to be available outside the campus. That's why the blue box is on the right side, because in order to do all this, you have to be outside. You cannot do it inside the campus. So you have to be externally available lah. So on the box, on the blue box on the right, you can see whether you monetize expertise, knowledge, services, etc. So what is your product? My product is a service. My product is a knowledge. My product is a expertise. Okay, so a lot of lecturers, they are stuck at the bottom. They're stuck at the bottom. They don't climb up. Maybe they go up slightly because external examiners. Maybe they go up because you have to be visible to be an examiner. Okay. But rarely they go above beyond because they're gonna like stuck under the red line. Okay, next. Okay, so if you were to extrapolate the same concept just now, all the three, Cochlea, Stanford, ETH Zurich, okay, the ETH Zurich is a service. It's a service commercialization. They provide the platform as a service. Okay, when you talk about Coursera, they are training/services as well. Okay, they train people using the platform. Also, they take other people training and put it on the platform. And they have cochlear implant. Melbourne is a device. All three of them must be externalized inside the commercial industry. All right. Okay, next. Okay, so if you were to plot this, there is another dimension here when you want to commercialize. When you commercialize, you have the red line, whereby if you commercialize something that is time independent, scalable, you'll be on the top right, above the red line. If you are commercializing something that is time dependent and individual, you will be on the bottom right. Okay, what does it mean? Okay, for example, let's say you are teaching. You are lecturing. Your product is, for example, you are a trainer. People come and they learn about, let's say, Six Sigma. Okay, Six Sigma management. So time dependent means the only consultancy, the only training you can do is dependent on you. Okay, if you have 24 hours, you can do only training 8 hours a day. So time dependent means only available to you. So you can do 8 hours times 30 days. So below the red line. But if you go beyond, for example, let's say you have a brand, your Six Sigma training, okay, you create videos, you create books, you create content, people click on your online courses. So the online courses is being taught, revenue is being generated, walaupun you tidur, walaupun you are asleep. So you are time independent, you are scalable. You can put it online, YouTube. Okay, for example, we have some example just now. I'll show later. Dr. Hasbullah, for example, he is online. So people click on the video, he receive revenue as a YouTube revenue. He creates books, modules, so he receive books according to. So the product can be created in multiple ways. Right? Even let's say your product is the Six Sigma training module. So creating a YouTube online content that people click, that create revenue, allows you to create a scalable, independent revenue stream. It's not dependent on you. Okay, so this is a rough map. You can have a look later, but it depends on where you are. For example, if you are best-selling title book, from. So even if you if you want to extrapolate this based on what we call academia, you can see being a VC, the green color, the dean, the VC, you start with lecturer, the black color. Even if you are a VC, you are still within the blue line. You tak keluar lagi. Only if you being sought after, you jadi ketua pengarah. So actually you can map this according to your career as well. Where am I? Am I within institution? Am I dekat luar? Am I being sought after? Am I being independent? Okay, so very rare. You're gonna have less dots on the top right lah. Okay, but most of people, in general, 90% of the people will stick to the left side and they will go up higher. Professor with high index is still within the university. Okay, so professor with the consultancy company, because the consultancy company will work independent of him, red dot atas. But if a professor with a self-consultancy, so they do consultancy work, compensation, they will be under the red line because the consultancy is dependent on him. The one on top, independent of him. Okay, all right, next. Okay, so when you map yourself, you have the 4 P's, whether you do a public service, you do people, you do peers and private. Private means swasta, public means kerajaan, peers mean among universities, and people means mass lah, rakyat. So dia orang awam. So why we need to map yourself? Because when you commercialize something, your time, your strategy, your focus will be accordance to compass you kat mana. The way you market to general public tak sama dengan you market to the government agencies. The way you market to the people is not the same as the way you market to your peers. So you need to know where your market segment is, what product you want to push, what kind of output. So this is not fixed. This is dynamic according to which phase you are, your career. So you starting out usually will be public peers or people. As you become more expert, then the government will call you. So you become public, or maybe you become more expert, become private. So your compass change. But you need to have a compass because you cannot do everything at the same time. There's not enough time. All right. Okay. Next. So this is what example. Just to do masterclass. I think everybody is familiar with masterclass. So here you can see the future of education, whereby people using the digital platform are able to share their knowledge. You can see here people like Dr. Jane Goodall. You can see director film David Lynch. Okay, you can see photographer and Leibovitz. So using this platform, people not only learn from you, they learn from the expert. So how can we beat this? So this is in a way a product by itself lah. A product by itself. A product is their self lah. Okay, next. So in Malaysia, for example, this is just some example. The person and the product is important. Okay, the persona is a brand. Kita nampak situ Fazilah Kamsah. You can see the Dr. Hasbullah Syarah. You can see di Jomo. You can see the Dr. Rozaimi. Dijual buku, solat yang mudah lagi sunnah. Okay, you can see Dr. Rocket. You can see okay, Muhammad Dr. Muhammad Khalid. Okay, the book by Khalid Equality. So every product has a persona lah. Every product has a persona. Okay, right, next. Okay, for example, here product of a person. Remember, we have, for example, this I use example UTM punya product. You can see the Max, you can see DF automation. Okay, there's a persona. There's a persona behind the product first. So people trust the persona, then the product will follow suit lah. So don't forget that behind every product there is a person that people like, person that have a social capital. Okay, next, last before we cap. Okay, things to do. Okay, people gonna ask me things to do. Things to do, for example, industry management. Make sure kena evolve to embrace the concept of commercialization ni. Tak boleh, hantar cek lambat, nak claim lambat, nak keluar susah, pergerakan susah, recognition, naik pangkat susah. Okay, kena reduce academic burden, kena groom and train. You have to have the program. You ask them to join program, maybe by MTDC, by TPM, etc. So once you want to commercialize the product, you need to enter existing market. Biasanya macam tu. You don't need 100% over. You just need a product that is substantially different to attract people. Then you have to frame your research and pivot to the industry. Okay, you do not resign, okay, do not leave academia, but leave your ivory tower. Pergi cakap dengan industri. If you want to start, you tak pernah ada pengalaman langsung, zero. Start dengan training or consultancy. Gain trust. Address pain points. Lepas tu, build your social capital. Okay? Remember, you pergi pasar malam pun, ataupun you pergi caterer, you nak buat kenduri kahwin, you nak cari plumber, you nak pergi workshop, nak cari kereta repair, kalau you dah, you kena ask people, siapa sini caterer sedap, nak masak, ni nasi ambeng. Okay, you gonna get recommendation. So, recommendation is social capital. People tak pernah pergi secara rawak. Kita kena cuba kedai ini sebab kita kena cuba. As a sample, we have to be independent, we have to try all the shops dekat Skudai. No. You can get recommendation, social capital, people recommend, nasi ambeng ni, kedai ni, sedap. Kau cuba sini. Because you don't have time, you don't have need to try everything. So sama juga dengan you as a product, you as a person, people will get recommendation. Okay. Invest your consultancy revenue into the venture kalau you ada, because you perlukan modal. Students your current worker, your partner, tapi also your future customer and also possibly your business partner. So treat your student well. You acquire knowledge, Lean Business Canvas, all these courses ada banyak available, provided by the university, provided by KPT, provided by MOSTI, provided by MTDC, MDEC, whatnot, semua banyak. Seed funding, universiti patut bagi seed funding untuk pameran. MTDC ada seed funding, you ada MySI, you ada a lot of things. Right? But the last advice saya kata, do not leave academia. Even you are successful, and for example, previously Dr. Mariani, Dr. Yong, they are millionaires, but they still academic. David Cheriton, 6.9 billion US dollars, dia still mengajar dekat Stanford. Because the moment you leave academia, people akan samakan you macam Dr. Azizan Osman, person, bukanlah kata nothing wrong with them, but dia persona non grata lah. Dia tak ada attachment institution. Kan, dia doktor something tapi tak ada institution. So Dr. Ali Shukri pun ada doktor. Kan, you can have, but the persona itself tu dia akan menyebabkan you differentiated lah. You are not an academic. So don't leave the academia. Alright, I think that's all. We do a Q&A lah. For the remainder of the time. So kalau ada soalan pun boleh chat, boleh type kat situ. Kita just exchange knowledge as well. Boleh Alia dengar? I mean everything was smooth
Boleh. Everything's smooth. We can go now.
Alright. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Shahir, for such an inspiring sharing sessions. It's interesting. It's interesting how the concept such as Coursera is both a platform and service where the trainers can too be a learner. But not only that, the concept of Coursera is interesting, but what I have also learned and gained throughout this sharing session is that the 4P products. Because as in general, I know that the marketing has its own 4P, which is price, place, product, and promotion. But now, by using this 4P, we can commercialize our lab research. So, I have a few questions from Hazi. So, he would like to know more about the 4P product. So, by Professor, by all means, when copy products, does it mean that you have to go one by one, or you can just go throughout all of them to commercialize our product?
Okay, the 4P. Okay, the 4P is not the product. The 4P is the target.
I see. Okay, I understand.
So when for example, because remember this is unique to academia, this map ni, because as an academic or usually you have a variety in your portfolio. For example, just now I use the example of, let's say you are a Six Sigma qualified. I think a lot of people NLP lah, they are trained, they are ISO trained. So let's say you want to promote you as a Six Sigma expert. The way you promote Six Sigma to the private is different from the way you promote Six Sigma to the public institution, kan? NPS as well. So this is just the market direction where you want to put. For example, let's say, okay, I want to start Six Sigma with private, because obviously you're gonna do audit, you need to help the private sector. So the way you do it is different. And then when you shift towards public, let's say you want to become a Six Sigma consultant for the government. They want to understand. Let's say you want to work with MITI. So the way you approach MITI is different. So I believe that there is no Six Sigma need for the people unless people want to learn. So how do you learn Six Sigma? How do you teach general public who are interested? So they come on online courses, they do books, they join your physical class. So totally different way to market. So that's it. It's different from your piece. This piece is just a target.
Okay, I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions from the audience?
Yeah,
Yeah,
may
please.
I?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Prof, terima kasih. Prof, if I may, you mentioned that
please.
the people is very important. Not everybody can be an entrepreneur, and not every product is commerciable. So may I know what are the orang kata the criteria that for you to ascertain whether you are an entrepreneur or not? And if I may, for the second questions, what
Yeah.
are the variables used by the university to ascertain whether you're with any market or services or training? What are the variables that they use to to assess whether your products are commerciable or not, so that the level, and then from there you move forward? Thank you, Prof.
Okay, all right. Okay, for the first question, how do you know whether you are an individual is suitable for entrepreneurship or not? Okay, some people they say, okay, it's in the blood, kan? Kadang dia kata, okay, mak ayah dia, datuk dia meniaga, it's in the blood. So it takes oneself to know oneself lah, in a way. But if you want to go objective, very objective about it, there are many tools that allow you to measure. For example, if you go into Brick Myers personality test, okay, there are four types of personality that is suitable for entrepreneurship. So you have tests like what we call entrepreneurial orientation. So if you are in Bitcom want to test the lecturer ni, they have the product, okay, want to test, person ni boleh tak? Okay, so Bitcom can do an entrepreneurial orientation test, give the test. So there are certain criteria. Generally, introvert are not good entrepreneur. Introvert, very rare. You boleh jadi introvert untuk jadi entrepreneur kalau business you does not require you to meet people. Okay, for example, macam Elon Musk. Elon Musk, when he did his first business, Zip2, and then they go into PayPal, kan, dia commercial, dia jual PayPal, then they buat all the Tesla, and now SpaceX sebagainya. But when he started, he was an introvert. So abang dia Kimball Musk yang fronting to the public, and then marketing, doing the legwork. Elon Musk did the programming in the office. He rarely venture out. So as people change throughout their life, they become more mature, more experienced. Sometimes there is a shift between being introvert, become extrovert, or introvert being sufficiently extrovert to allow you to engage with people. For example, now if you look Elon Musk, when you talk about dia punya investors call, meeting, battery day, solar day. So whenever there's a public engagement dengan dia, you can see that from time he has become better in engaging people. So people do change, but to identify first, there are many tools. Just the two mentioned is an example. Myers-Briggs, you can have the Big Five, you can have the EO, interpretation to measure, and then that will help guide. So sometimes people need training. So let's say they have the potential to be successful, then Bitkom can then introduce training, open up. Sometimes the training will help them mature. Okay. Question number 2, how do you know the market? I think when one thing that lecturer needs to do or student needs to do, they have to go to the market. They have to go to the market. Okay, for example, let's take our example, Plus Highway. When Plus Highway was started in 1980s, masa tu I can't remember Datuk, somebody who did the Plus. So he went abroad and they had, in 80s, I remember 80s, 90s, the concept of highways ni tak ada tau in Malaysia. So when he went abroad, dia kata okay, dia tengok, kenapa ni this highway is very nice, people pay toll, so we don't have that concept in Malaysia. So then he came back, he has access to Tun Mahathir masa tu, so he went and meet Tun Mahathir. And then the story goes that Tun Mahathir kata agree, then you create the Plus lah. So then become lah our Plus. So it involves the person living dia punya own confine. Okay, how do you do that? You have to be externalized di luar, so that you get to experience and see things that you haven't experienced before. Only then you identify that, okay, this other, and then you bring back to your market. Okay, macam contoh Starbucks, masa Starbucks mula-mula buat, dia punya owner tu, I can't remember his name, he went to Europe, and see all this cafe, macam, in Europe, coffee, etc. But the culture wasn't in the US. So he came back, he opened his first, I can't remember the name, but it was not Starbucks lah, the first cafe. It didn't work out because the cafe was modeled exactly macam France. But France have cobble street, narrow street, less traffic, people punya culture tak sama. In Europe, you still lay back and you have this ambience culture. So Starbucks modified to suit the American working culture. Okay, coffee on the go. Okay, go, keluar, cepat. It's not so much about the ambience of the France, but the availability of good coffee. So you lecturers go out and identify and then bring back the idea. So either you introduce a new product, services from somebody abroad, or you can read about it, get ideas from working experience. But the main point here, it is an introduction of something that is never before. It's the innovation of coffee supply in urban area in the city. So the innovation came from the idea brought back from Europe. So the same here, in order to test your product, you have to go to the industry and then address their pain points and then bring some value back. So if you want, for lecturer here, remember this is academics. You need to solve an industry problem and then bring back and then take it out again and commercialize when the industry wants it. Okay, for example, Dr. Yong, if you Google DF Automation, UTM is the biggest Malaysian robot AGV lah, dia panggil Automatic Guided Vehicle producer in Malaysia. So the way they tackle the market, dia tak boleh lawan Bosch, dia tak boleh lawan KUKA, the big companies, Hitachi. But then all the small companies, medium-sized companies, they want robot, they want automation, but they don't have the budget, because when you go to the high end, the KUKA, the Bosch, the Hitachi, they provide industrial solution that is millions and millions ringgit. But Dr. Yong say, okay, we have a small market. The market is for small and medium player that require automation, but not as expensive as KUKA or Hitachi. So they go towards this market and then they solve that problem. But he only realized when he went to industry, got the idea, come back to university, up from the idea and then go back out. So you have to have that one experience outside. Okay. Then number two, in order to identify whether your product meets the market, you do all the necessary due diligence lah. You do the lean canvas, business canvas. You talk to people, you get valuation appointment, you get some PRGS, you do the prototype. So there will be some process to work upon. But the main idea I said here, you need to be out there. Yeah, you need to be externalized. Okay, all right. I hope that answers the question, Dr. Liza. Oh, Prof. Liza, sorry.
Sorry, thank you, Prof. Shahir. Saya nampak ada satu soalan, tapi if I may, Alia, I would like a follow-on question, Prof. Shahir.
Ya, boleh.
I think that's the question.
Okay.
Okay, so there's another question from Muhammad Yusuf Masood. He asks, how can we align product with the industry needs?
Okay. My philosophy is, even before you create the product, you go to the industry first. You may have a product on campus. You align by taking the product out, by testing it out. Okay, let's say for example, Dr. Yong. Okay, Dr. Yong has the robot. So the robot works by automation. So he has a robot, he has the software, he has the automation, he has the material. But then when he first ventured out, we go to the industry say, okay, our budget is this and this. Okay, this is our budget. So he had to modify his robot to fit the budget one. Okay, most of his factories, they want the process of removing manual labor, moving items of the product or moving material from point A to point B. They want it regularly. So they don't require the canggihness, the sophistication of a robot with articulated, hands. No, they just want something that takes a material, heavy material from point A to point B. So then he customized, but he already has the product. He already have the AGV. Only that, okay, the way the factory is being designed, it must be like a forklift. So if you look at DF Automation robot, all of them, the robot is like very flat head and flat body. So it can easily slide in under anything, under the pallet, under the storage system. So it is not the square. If you look at the robot in Amazon, it is like a moving box. Okay. If you look at Tesla robot, it's a flat, like a movable, I would say, crane, but you have 2 points to lift the car. So the alignment, when you say alignment, it is alignment to the finished product, not alignment to the idea. You can't take an idea that the industry doesn't need and then go to the industry. Okay, I have this, and then immediately if there's a need, the industry will say yes. If they say there's no need, the industry will say no. And then you go back to the drawing board. The idea is, when you go and align means finishing the product, small tweaks. I hope that answers. Susah ada tak online, tak face to face ni. So I cannot gauge the audience. I don't know whether they are happy with my answer or not. Kan?
The farm is really relatable ever since about online ni kan. So semua ni susah sikit.
Yeah. Never mind, it's okay. Any question, anybody can chat.
Okay, thank you for the questions. Pada Cik Muhammad Yusuf Masood, and thank you juga for the very interesting answer, Professor. Is there any more questions from the audience?
Follow up tadi, Dr. Liza.
Okay, yes, Prof.
Boleh
Liza.
ke yang lain? Minta maaf sangat, boleh ke nak tanya?
Boleh. Sila. Tanya je.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Alia. Prof, just to ask further, tadi saya ada tanya, because if you have the product and it's in a form, because I'm from the social sciences, it's in the form of a training and other products in the industry needed. But are there a lot of, bureaucracy or procedural that you need to meet with the university? Because let's see, you said just now that you got to gauge with the industry and then, of course, build up your name from there. If you have already established that platform and you have a product, so how do you go about, and what are the considerations that you have to give to the university? And secondly,
Okay.
Prof, kita selalunya kan ada protoje untuk bawa team kita. I mean, yelah orang kata orang ni tak pandai entrepreneurship, tapi you need to inculcate lah kan untuk adik-adik yang junior kita. So if you bring in your team and train, how to facilitate this through the university channel, and then so that your protoje pun adalah kewibawaan dia dengan jati diri dia sikit. I'm sure not everybody can be a businessman, but for academia, I believe that the priority is to at least give something to the target group, and then at the same time educate and awareness, and of course simultaneously you gain the revenue lah kan, if I'm not mistaken, Prof, if I may ask your opinion and your experience since you're in this particular area. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about being a social science researcher and path to commercialize your product. Betul Dr. Liza?
Betul.
Itu your first question kan? Okay, all right.
Yes,
okay.
please.
Okay. Let's use you as example. So senang kan? So that kalau kita buat orang lain dia hypothetical, kita pun tak tahu betul tak betul. Okay, first of all, to everyone who is here this morning, going to industry is a must. Whether you nak commercialize ke, tak commercialize ke, whether you have product to sell, nowadays going to industry is a must, because the way education is moving forward, people want to get value. Okay, people can get the knowledge. Okay, saya boleh ajar orang, you pun boleh belajar daripada YouTube, daripada content. There are expert people. I need to compete, for example, with Simon Sinek. Okay, Simon Sinek, because macam Fazilah Kamsah, let's talk about Fazilah Kamsah. Fazilah Kamsah, apa dia kata, motivational talk tu is nothing new. Kalau saya cakap, kan, saya mungkin kata, alah, abang ni bebel lah, kan. Tapi kalau Fazilah Kamsah cakap, Fazilah Kamsah, maka benarlah ia. Padahal kalau husband cakap benda sama je, cerita dia sama. Cuma sebab yang ni Fazilah Kamsah. Okay, so you have the brand. You have the persona. With the brand, with the persona comes the legitimacy. Sebab tu kalau you tengok iklan Colgate, iklan benda-benda semua, orang tu bukan doktor. Because ikut akta, doktor tidak boleh promote produk. Tapi dia pakai kod putih. Promotion, marketing. Jadi dia bagi aura authenticity, genuine, authority. Kan? Sebab tu semua orang suka pakai naik motor, semua pakai baju macam ada, kalau rider apa semua kadang-kadang nampak macam polis, because the symbol of authority. Okay. So you need to be an authority in your bidang. By being authority, barulah you ada product to sell. So the product could be macam tadi lah, Dr. Liza, you punya bidang apa ya? Sorry if I may ask.
I'm in
tak
law.
Dengar je. Law, okay.
I'm in law. Law.
Law, okay, law. So, dalam law, I don't know, law ada banyak kan? You...
banyak.
Which part of law? In your case?
Boleh. My case,
Apa?
I'm doing competition law. In my case, I'm doing competition law or antitrust law. So, produk
antitrust competition, monopoli lah semua ni.
Monopoly, duopoly, oligopolistic.
All this. So your opponent is okay. So your those yang nak dengar cakap you, yang perlukan you adalah the AG Chambers, betul
At the moment, it's the companies because sekarang kan banyak on digital platform and competitive market on digital platform, regulations on cyber security. Yes, insyaAllah.
Okay, alright. So there is your market. So dah ada Compass dah. Compass dah ada. So Compass you kat bawah is a private market private market. So the private market, in order to penetrate the private market, you have your brand, you ada your name, you from your ATM, you pakar. So have they started consulting you, panggil you, bagi advice?
Yes.
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 So you already have a name. You dah ada brand tak? Dah ada brand dekat Facebook tak? Expert, you dah create you punya LinkedIn.
Alhamdulillah, I am. Yes.
Yes. So itu dah start lah. I mean, you're already on a good role dah. Okay, dah ada. And then you participate kan seminar kat mana-mana di event kat KL. You hadir, people know you. Kalau event pasal law, legal, antitrust. Kalau event tu, ada Dr. Liza kan?
True.
Yes.
Betul.
So you have built your brand. And then now apa produk yang dia orang perlukan? Okay, for example, are you teaching the company so you can offer them training? Modul sekarang ni orang belajar, contohlah training through Instagram pun ada. Kan, Instagram classes, etc. Okay, so you can start offering. Dia ada multiple layer. Introduction to antitrust perspective Malaysia. So all these classes. Jangan buat satu kelas mahal. You buat modular. Kan? You build modular. Jadi mana-mana company yang nak macam okay, I think my staff need to learn this. Or you offer something that current yang let's say there's an issue tiba-tiba pasal antitrust ke monopoli ke duopoli ke apa oligarki, for example yang saya tahu saya industri ayam ada oligarki kan, industri ayam kat Malaysia.
Ya, betul. True. Betul.
Okay, so are you writing in newspapers for example? Are you giving your ideas? Astro Awani panggil you? Belum lagi
Itu saya tak buat kerana I'm attached with the ministry, so at the moment I cannot do those things lah. Yeah.
Okay, so you dah tahu dah apa yang the do's and the don't yang boleh, yang conflict of interest. So being a legal person, I think you like all the T's and the D and the dots you dah faham lah. So now you can maneuver by offering in terms of this content. Tadilah module training. Lepas tu maybe you can start a YouTube channel legal, and maybe kalau antitrust your bidang ni terlalu kecil, you can talk about legal things in general, because people nak tahu, contohnya even faraid kan versus hibah kan. Kalau you tengok I think everybody if you boleh Google YouTube, tengok Dr. Hasbullah Syarah. Semalam I did a study dengan one of staff lah, dia nak buat YouTube video. So Hasbullah Syarah semalam dia buat satu video 5 benda jangan buat kalau kereta automatik. Kereta automatik jangan buat 5 benda ni. Tajuk dia very clickbait lah. 5 benda yang tidak dibenarkan buat. That video dia cerita 5 benda je. 5 benda yang I think Dr. Liza tahu, saya pun tahu, common sense. Tapi surprise, ramai orang tak tahu. So that one video je 500,000 views. Okay, kalau dia dah monetize that channel kan, you rasa berapa dia dapat? So, bila kita sebut pasal produk, in terms of academia lah, kita bersyarah dia jangan cakap pasal produk macam commercial company macam Tesla tu. Kita sebenarnya produk dia lah kita, and then the product tu according to the stream. Produk kita video, produk kita manual, produk kita buku, produk kita test. Contoh macam I think legal, you ada macam compliance test ke apa ke, nak tengok your company green tak green contohnya kan. So you dah ada, and then you explore, and then you tackle every issue lah. So there is no boom produk dia jarang sangat like satu produk boom, no. Dia akan ada multiple revenue stream lah. Daripada the brand, daripada you, Dr. Liza. Jadi boleh posing yang macam peluk tubuh kan, yang posing sengit tu kan, pakar something macam tu lah. So to be honest, you cannot get away from that. As an academic, the branding is important lah, because the knowledge datang daripada sini. So we as a persona, kita kena macam Fazilah Kamsah lah. Alright, so ada soalan lagi? Ni panjang ni.
I think Dr.
All the best. Sila. Okay.
Thank you, Prof. Liza, for the questions, and thank you, Prof, for very knowledgeable answer. We have a few questions. There's one question from Dr. Fazlina Hamza.
Okay.
Prof, It says, Prof, can you share the strategy from UTHM or UTM in grooming towards commercialization?
Sorry, putus-putus. UTHM macam mana?
Sorry, di sini it says, Prof, can you share the strategy from UTHM or UTM
Okay.
in grooming towards commercialization?
Oh, okay. Okay, alright. Okay, I talk about UTHM lah, UTHM. So for UTHM, even because I did manage commercialization in UTM before I was loaned to UTHM. Okay, I was in charge. And I'm in charge now. So I follow my philosophy lah. Okay, my philosophy is that when you want to do commercialization, number one, top down never works. Top down will never work. It must be bottom up. It must be from the heart, from the individual. The individual must be passionate to move forward with the idea, because susah, senang, perih, jerih, sakit, penat, lelah is the person. University can give the support. Okay, for example, in UTHM, we can give you loan, cash, loan to buy equipment for you to do commercialization services. Let's say you need to buy a drone. The drone is 20,000 ringgit. You want to buy 5. So 100,000 ringgit to kick off your drone services. UTHM will loan you the money. Zero interest. So you only pay back after 3 years. So we can support. We need the idea to come from the grassroots, datang daripada bawah. Okay, you want to buy drone. Okay, here's 100,000 ringgit. Okay, take it. After 3 years, you pay back. Okay. Support system. We allow our staff to do up to 2-year sabbatical leave, but what we call entrepreneurial leave. So, like sabbatical, we go off sabbatical, study, tulis paper, tulis buku. But in our case, you commercialize your product. So dia fully paid, gaji jalan, everything semua, and then is treated as a sabbatical, but it's a product-based sabbatical lah. So you can do that for 1+1, so up to 2 years. Okay. Lepas tu, you can open your STUs, your Syarikat Terbitan University. You are allowed, no problem. And you are given, okay, if you have an STU, 3 out of 5 days is allowed for you to work with your STU. You can work with STU. Let's say you want to commercialize a product, 1 day in a week, you can work on your commercialization. If you don't have a company. So if you don't have a company, 1 day. If you have a company, 3 days. So you only teach, you only do research, you only do other things, 2 days. So the support system is there, the loan, the money, the leave, the time, and the reduction in beban lah. So if you're doing commercialization, those who decide to do commercialization will be given only 1 day teaching load. 1 day teaching load. So in order for them to be successful, we have to give them the space and the ruang to do that lah. And everybody, this is everybody, everybody are given 1 day to do their commercialization or their consultancy or their industry linkages. So 1 day in a week. So literally everybody in UTHM, maximum beban mengajar is only 3 days. Not more than that. So we give the ruang lah. And then, okay, we also have program. Let's say you have students are interested in working with industry. So we will give the student and the supervisor 10,000 ringgit seed money to work with the industry, to offer solution. So we then attach the student to the particular company for 15 months. 15 months. So they will work with the company, with the lecturer to provide engineering solution, to provide industrial solution for a maximum period of 15 months. Our letter industry is 6 months, but under this program is 15 months. So there is a lot of what university can do lah to help because they need to create the environment so that the lecturer can then flourish. And we also send them for training. We send them. We partner up with Technology Park Malaysia, MTDC, MDEC. We do pitching training. For example, when they want to apply for a grant, there's a coaching system. There's a mentor-mentee. So for those STU, okay, for those STUs, our spin-off, they take our student as internship. Their allowances is tax deductible. So our student digalakkan bekerja dengan STU bayar allowance tu tidak perlu dapat tax exemption lah, tax exemption. 200%. So dia akan tolak as expenses up to 200%. So banyaklah, we can actually do one whole session just on the management inside the university, how you want to push benda tu. So I hope dia menjawab.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Thank you,
Yep.
Dr. Fazlina, for the questions. There's another question from Aisha Muhammad Yasim. What is the best method for lecturers to commercialize their research products, especially in the field of arts and design? And how can we align with the industry needs, Prof?
Okay, arts and design, in terms of output in terms of higher education, it is considered what we call NTROs. NTRO, which is non-traditional research output. Okay, they are not Q1, Q2 papers, they are not, scopers, Yes, you have research publication, you have the output, the ROs, research output, tapi it is called non-traditional lah. Okay. For the arts, from my experience, usually, let's say for example, USM. So they have people who sells the art. Okay, because art ni is bespoke. Dia bukannya mass. It's not mass produced. There's only one Mona Lisa. Okay, so the most basic level is to sell the art. Sell the art. So there's you have the arca, you have the lukisan, you have the output that you sell. So when you talk about very, very basic rudimentary level, it's just selling the art. Okay. Once you evolve into something higher, there's level where, for example, I know some private universities, they are working with tempat pameran all these exhibition hall to promote services as a platform. So they offer services and then they do some kind of training, arts training, etc. based on these services, etc. So it becomes more complex lah. For example, the private university that I know, when they work with exhibition companies, so they have to find a place, they have to do a jadual, takwim, they have to associate themselves with the persatuan or the group of association, for example, for that particular art. So it gets more complex lah. But the nature of arts is always macam any other commercial art available out there. You get people to purchase, to create a revenue from either the art itself or from the services, from the training. So there's no different in terms of the commercial activity from existing arts. So the only matters now is to bring that process inside the campus. But whatever that is happening right now di luar sana in terms of the art scene, that's it. It's the same. Just transfer it into the context of the university. And then one thing for sure, when you do arts and you do research, you have the students, because take them as part of the production, I would say. So the students are involved, the student learn new things. Sometimes you sell the students' art, then the money will be given to the students. So it's a part of like welfare as well. So the difference between the arts world di luar sana, because they are dependent on commercial artists to commercialize, but here you have students. Students is unlimited. Every year new students, new ideas, okay, new concept, and students are more receptive towards new technology. Students, they can create content now with NFT kan, non-fungible tokens. You can sell NFT kan. Siapa Namiwi Namiwi jual dia punya NFT berapa juta? 4 juta kan. So NFT now you can sell. So young students, new students, they are more receptive towards new medium lah. So that's how I think of it. Harap dia menjawab.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Aisha, for the questions, and thank you juga for a very fascinating answer. So we have two more questions. One of the questions are from Dr. Siti Rabizah Maxin. Prof, thanks for
Yeah.
the good sharing. Can Prof share the average rate success of spin-off ataupun or startup company from university commercialization?
Okay. Macam ni. Let's go back before to answer that question. Okay, let's fall back into how many of academics you can be successful. Okay. Usually if you follow the orange book, the number will vary, but around 10%. So I don't know how many UiTM lecturer in the whole of Malaysia? Anybody knows?
Kalau throughout the whole system, about 9,000 lah.
About 9,000 Okay,
Yeah.
alright. My guess was 10,000. So okay lah tu dah dekat lah. Around 9,000. So to commercialize when you talk about a company, biasanya when you want to open a company ataupun you commercialize product, literally going down that route usually not more than 10% lah. So you're talking about 900 or less. 900 or less are doing that. It's not for everyone. Okay. Tapi those who monetize using at least product which is training. For example, let's say Dr. Liza tadi, dia dah menjadi icon in terms of dia punya own realm dia, domain expert dia dah menjadi icon, people cari dia, dia become pakar rujuk, people pay her. So the measure of commercialization tu, the most basic level is training, commercialization of knowledge. People see value in what you gonna say, people pay you, and then they get the knowledge. Itu paling basic, the most basic level, tapi dia berlaku di luar kampus. So for that, the expectation is around 90%. 90%. Ideally kena macam tu, around 90% of, so daripada 9,000 tu should be around 8,000 kot. Be able to do that. Okay. Jangan tergelak dulu. Yes, I know it's like macam tak logik kan. Tapi ideally ni macam tu. Whether we are there or not is a secondary issue. But ideally, the only way moving forward in the future, where you have to compete with digital media, you have to compete with the latest offering by the industry, you have to compete with expert who now encroaching your domain. You know, for example, tadi Anne Leibowitz, photographer, now can teach photography courses. Okay, lecturer has no choice but to be relevant to the stakeholders dekat luar. And the only way to measure whether they are being relevant or not is that when they are being sought after. So if nobody is seeking you out, means that you are not offering value above the red line. Okay, so there is no choice. Okay, tu. But then going to the STU pula, the company, okay. If you talk about research, right, the average is for every $100 investment in research, you only make back $4. So, saya tak sure macam mana nak translate directly into companies lah, because when we allow a person to open a company, because the nature of the company tak banyak, so we really groom them untuk dia orang berjaya, because failure is not an option. Okay, kita bagi dia cuti, kita bagi dia duit 100,000, kita bagi dia macam-macam, tapi dia gagal. It's not an option for administrator like me lah. So we want to keep it, kalau boleh tak ada gagal lah. So the aim is semua yang buka tak ada yang gagal. Okay, tapi from experience, rule of thumb, tak semua pokok menjadi. Rule of thumb, bila kita buka a certain number of companies per year, saya punya personal expectation, half akan gagal. Half akan gagal. Sometimes gagal multiple factors. Market change, kadang-kadang personal circumstances of the lecturer, kadang-kadang family issues, etc. Kadang-kadang gaduh. Tapi the rate of bila kita buka tu, we hope at least half survives. Okay. This rate tak sama dengan student. Student punya entrepreneurship lain dengan pensyarah punya entrepreneurship. For example, kalau student, myself, we call it startup, because start from up, nothing lah. Kalau lecturer, we call it spin-off, because they spin-off from the research. Okay, so the success rate of startup and spin-off biasanya differ. Lepas tu dia according to bidang. Okay, for example, in UTHM, we have TVET. UTHM is known for TVET. So every kursus kita yang kita buat kursus degree in terms of what we call HVAC, aircon system, HVAC. So in the final year, budak-budak HVAC ni kena buka company. Okay, kena buka company, and then the company tu akan dapat kontrak untuk maintenance aircon lah. Internal, kita ada job on campus program ataupun entrepreneurship on campus. So dia boleh buka kat luar, dia boleh kerja dengan dapatkan servis kat luar aircon, dia pun servis aircon staff. So dalam satu batch around 6 company. So every company ni nak buat, dia kena daftar CIDB, dia kena ambil card, dia kena buat certification, lepas tu dia kena bayar RM10,000 untuk daftar, dia kena daftar dalam sistem selenggara apa semua. So every year this company will maintain lah, dia takkan fail, because the way it's being designed is dia memang dah kerja from dalam campus lagi, and the nature of business yang UTHM buat, student dia kebanyakannya TVET base. So dia mid size lah, dia tak ada senang cerita susah nak fail lah. Servis aircon susah nak fail. So unless macam tadilah ada personal circumstances dia, mungkin kadang ada kematian dalam keluarga, to my knowledge, dia tak jadi, lepas tu mungkin ada kes-kes macam tu menyebabkan dia gagal lah. Tapi in teorinya to say success rate tu dia tak ada. Kita nak semua sukses, tapi if you want to say rule of thumb, biasanya about separuh lah. Separuh. Okay, harap menjawab.
Faham. Okay, thank you, Prof, and thank you to Dr. Siti Rabiza for the questions. As for our last questions, we have from Nur Azlinda Muhammad. The questions are: to come with a good product to be commercialized successfully, do we have to start with doing research, publication, and surveys to test the market first before producing it, so that it meet the needs and one able to penetrate the mass market?
Okay. The question mentioned what kind of product?
It does not. It's just as in general. It's
okay. Alright. So yes, obviously you're gonna do some market study. Obviously you're gonna do everything necessary. I mean, even for big companies, existing companies like Colgate Palmolive, every time they want to produce a new toothpaste, dia ada all this market survey, tanya nak perisa apa, is it kanak-kanak strawberry is better than the orange, dan kita ada at one time dulu, ingat tak, masa keluar ubat gigi yang Islamik tu, Muslim yang warna hijau tu, yang keluar iklan, adakah ubat gigi anda halal? Dia kalang kabut masa tu, Colgate Palmolive dapat dia halal punya certification, and then masa tu dia identify there's a certain segment that emphasis on the halal, etc. So yes, you do that. Cuma macam ni lah. My advice is, if you want to identify the market needs dan sebagainya, usually is to fine tune your product, bukannya to gauge daripada tak tahu langsung kepada tahu. Because if you were to do that, tak tahu langsung kepada nak tahu, it will be something wrong. Because if you are already doing your role as somebody who are externalized, di industri, you already get the information informally through your channel, through discussion. Kenapa produk ni tak ada? Boleh tak engkau ni? Kenapa tak ada orang buat ni? So, there will be informal channels, sembang kedai kopi, dapat feedback, etc. So, from there, you get the survey, you get the, I would say, formal inquiry tu to fine tune. Bukan untuk dapatkan idea baru or dapatkan something from nothing. Because if you do that, it means that you actually not externalized, you are detached, you are tidak bersama mereka yang akan menggunakan produk tu. So don't worry, if you have externalized yourself, input informal tu akan dapat. And then with your engagement dengan diorang, okay, for example, Grab. Okay, Grab dia bukannya start from zero. Dia bukannya ada keluar survey. Dia tengok dekat US ada Uber. So dekat sini dah ada app nama My Taxi. So from My Taxi tu, sebab dia nak bantu taxi dapatkan klien, because masa tu kan ada friction antara Grab dengan pemandu taxi kan, gaduh lah sampai pukul-pukul, pemandu taxi pukul Grab driver. Tapi to say that Grab pergi buat survey, perlukah anda perkhidmatan seperti ini? Tak berlaku. Because he already knows. Cuma dia fine tune and then dia nak cepat, dia ambil Grab, dia ambil My Taxi. Ambil My Taxi, dia convert jadi Grab. Macam juga My Lorry kalau you Google, dia one of our startup lah yang berjaya. Dia sewakan lori. So dia bukannya something yang dia dapat from a formal survey. Dia macam kalau ada My Taxi, kalau ada Grab, kalau ada Uber, kenapa orang tak nak sewa lori? So ping, idea datang. And then maybe dia survey, yes. Dia survey orang owner lori. Dia tanya, okay, owner lori kalau nak sewakan berapa kadar, apa semua, berapa persen, etc. Apa yang menyebabkan you senang, susah, app you nak macam mana. Sebab lori punya sewaan, dynamics tak sama dengan sewa kereta. Kan? You have the hertz, you have the sewa kereta. Dekat UiTM ada kan? Campus apa? Tampak iklan. Sewa kereta, apa? Alza, apa? Myvi, berapa? Alia, satu hari. Sekarang berapa? What's the rate now?
Saya tak tahu lah, saya dah jarang dah.
Dah jarang. Tapi ada kan servis tu kan?
Ada Prof.
Okay, so dia tak ada buat official survey, tanya, hantar dekat college apa? Ada lagi? College Seroja. Masa zaman saya, kau panggil college Seroja.
Ada.
Okay, dia tak ada buat questionnaire hantar kat Seroja, lepas tu buat study, T-test, tak ada. But you get the sense of, okay, kawan-kawan komplain, susah transport, buat sewa kereta. So, first is the informal, and then untuk mengesahkan tu, you do the formal. Macam tu lah. But you have to do it. At one time or another. Okay?
Okay, faham Prof? Okay, thank you Nur
Yeah.
Azlinda for the questions, and thank you Prof for the answer. Okay, I think we have covered all the questions given by our researchers. I hope everyone have some good insight from Professor Dr. Muhammad Shahir Shamsi bin Omar. Thank you so much to Professor Shahir. Before we end our session, I would like to invite everyone to on your camera for a photo session.
Kak Bazli, please be prepared.
Thank you, Prof. Said for inviting.
Okay, thank you Prof. Sudi terima jemputan kami.
InsyaAllah.
InsyaAllah nanti kita mungkin jemput Prof kalau boleh kita untuk strategic planning Bitkom ke.
Boleh, no problem. I did my NCUK dekat UiTM. So saya ni kira alumni jugalah.
Alright.
Bazli and Encik Apple can prepare for the photo session. Okay, everyone ready? Smile. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, one more.
Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you everyone for gracing today's event. We hope to see you again in our next webinar sharing session. Thank you and have a nice day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Prof. Said.
Okay, thank you everyone. Okay,
Thank you.
salam.
Thank you, boss.
Thank you.